I am in the minority when it comes to reading Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight archives, but there's a reason for that. If you followed my channel for any length of time, you've heard me talk about this before, but I gave up following book authors in the middle of their series back with George R. R. Martin. That was the last one for me. I said, you're taking 6, 7, now 8 years between books. This was years and years ago with I think it was the fourth or fifth one. I don't know how many years it's been since then, and he still hasn't produced a novel. Um, uh, Rothfuss did the same thing, I think, with his book series, which was supposed to be 3 books. I never read the first 2 because I refuse to read series when they're midway through, and that's just it's a me thing. There are hundreds of good books that get released every year, and there are probably thousands. There's also hundreds, if not thousands, of books that I've never read before from authors who were from the 70s and 80s and 90s. There is so much content out there that I just don't have the time to put into following authors when they're in mid-series. But Sanderson is wrapping up the first arc of the Stormlight Archives and has been talking about how he's not going to be touching it for another 10 years, which means in my mind he's done. Like he's done the first series of books. So if you were to look at the way books used to be produced, like look at the Belgariad as an example and that whole series by Eddings. That's one example out of many. You used to have book series. The Rift Wars saga is another great example with Raymond Feist. These trilogies of books, or maybe there might be 3 books, it might be a duo, but some sort of a set volume, right? They would put it out, they would move on to a new idea in the same world and build upon what came before, do another trilogy or so of books, do it again, do it again. Terry Brooks has done it since the 70s with the Sword of Truth series. It's not Sword of Truth, sorry, Shannara, Sword of Shannara. Sword of Truth is completely different. It's Terry Goodkin. My bad. It's been a while. Anyway, it's been done before, but I think that Sanderson's way of doing things is to his generation what we had previously with a bunch of the authors I just mentioned. Um, Tad Williams is even in that category now because he's now come back to Austin Ard and has done more books there. So it's pretty interesting. Which, by the way, I have not read his latest trilogy of books in that world because I was waiting here for him to be done with the new trilogy, and now I can go back and read everything all at once and read the original Dragonbone Chair and the Memory Star and Thorn series and just go roll right into the new one. So I waited on this a long time. When did the first book get published? I'm gonna go over here and look at the wiki. 2010. So it's been 13 years. People have been pressuring me to read the Stormlight Archive, and I just was like, nope. But I can now say that I'm looking forward to reading this and getting into this. I think Tor announced recently, um, December 6th, 2024 will be the publication date of the 5th book. So that's going to be this winter, this Christmas. At some point this year, and I don't have the bandwidth for it yet, but this is on my agenda because these are massive books, and I'd love to actually start reading it. I don't need to get it done before the 5th book, but I wouldn't mind getting it done before the 5th book published. But just knowing that the 5th book is coming out in December and it's done, and he's not doing anything for the next 10 years, I now feel safe in going out there and starting the Stormlight Archive. Now, I'm up to speed with Sanderson as an author. I've read Mistborn at the very least. I follow him on social media. His TikTok is amazing. So even if I haven't read all of his stuff and I'm not intimately familiar with the Cosmere, I at least know of it. And I like listening to him as a lecturer and as someone who is a social media celebrity who is also an author. I know my brother really loves the guy who wrote the Aragon series, Polini, Christopher Polani. I forget his name exactly. I've seen some of his stuff recently too. I'm probably gonna start following him soon. I don't follow him yet. I totally need to because my brother has been raving about it. He just got a really cool picture book. His wife got him for his birthday. He's a big fan of that book series. It's a great series. Anyway, um, Sanderson's wrapping this up and moving on to, I think it's called Elantris is the other series he's working on now for the next. He's like got 3. I watched his outline the other day. He talked about his schedule for the next 10 years or whatever, and it was like 2 or 3 Elantris novels, I think is what they're called, and some other stuff. So he's got his plate full. Um, and I just got to say, it's extremely if nothing else, even though I'm not intimately familiar with his body of work, I know that he is a great, talented author, and I know that this series has become like this generation's Wheel of Time, right? It's become this thing where he is known for writing these massive novels, which are beefy, and yet most people, you know, would go into that thinking there's not a lot of fat on there. With Mistborn, I enjoyed the hell out of it. There were um, some great stories that that totally when I got to when they happened at the end, they were so well hidden. And I don't want to spoil anything here, but I want to say um, there's a thing at the end when you find out about the thing. I'm gonna spoil it. You've already read it. Everybody's read it except for me. One of the only people have the earring thing with was just blew my mind. There was that kind of stuff which was absolutely amazing to see, a trilogy of books carrying out this idea that didn't get revealed until the very end. It was like, holy shit, you caught me by surprise. That doesn't happen very often. But in the same token, I totally skim read the combat chapters in the Mistborn series, the same way I skim read a lot of the combat stuff in R.A. Salvatore. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. I'll read some of it, but I totally skim read when I get to combat section because there's so many of them. And they are well done, but at the same time, for me personally as a reader, I find Sanderson's dialogue in particular I love the dialogue that happens between the party members. I think the only other author I've ever had that much fun with, Jordan did a good job, but I think Zelazny for me was my favorite, especially when he gets into the first person, like the Amber series, when it's first person dialogue, so it's between Corman and somebody else, but then they go on for like 15 or 20 sentences without mentioning this he said, he did this, he raised an eyebrow, like none of that. It's just dialogue, bullet, dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. And you're like having this conversation. By the time you get to the end, you're like, do I still have the right order or did I screw that up somewhere along the way? But anyway, Sanderson's a great writer. I know a lot of people have been asking me this for a long time. I know I just rambled for a little bit, but hey, I'm excited. I had other things I wanted to read this year, but knowing that this is coming available, I may switch over. We'll see. I'm still doing the Dune reading, even though I'm not doing the Dune podcast anymore right now on this channel. I'm still continuing that read through and having a lot of fun with it, but I wouldn't mind sinking my teeth into something new. So if I could start to squeeze this in, I would say I'm not going to review chapter by chapter, that's for sure, but I will probably at some point somewhere, I'm still supposed to, and this just has been a secondary priority, with the Mondays in Middle Earth and the Dune podcast. I was like, I just need to make another channel for book stuff if I'm going to be doing week to week. But if I'm only doing, quarterly updates or something, or one every month, I could totally still do it here on this channel. But expect some sort of content from me around this sometime this year. Now that I know that the fifth book is coming out and there's going to be a big break, so this is essentially the first series in a greater series of works. Looking forward to reading it. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on the Stormlight Archive in particular. What's your favorite book? Don't spoil anything for me, please. I know some of you out there will try to do that, but um, I won't totally melt down, but just try not to, please, because I do want to know things for the first time. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Daily streams at 8 a.m. here and on Twitch. See everybody in the next one. Cheers.